In other news, NUMSA says a settlement has now been reached with Goodyear Tyres for over 900 workers that have lost their jobs. The employees are set to get a lump sum severance package starting from about 100,000 rand. 64 workers who've been with the company for more than 26 years or more will get an average payout of around 1 million rand. The tyre manufacturer is planning to close its plant in Kariega in the Eastern Cape after 78 years of operation in South Africa. Watching developments for us is SABC News reporter Katlego Lukhodi, who joins us now live from Newtown, where NUMSA has just wrapped up their briefing. And Katlego, this union is saying that the closure of this company marks a dangerous precedent.
Most definitely. A very good morning once again, Ayanda, to you and to the viewers at home. We see NUMSA today just taking stock of where the industry finds itself in terms of the manufacturing space, but also the steel space where we find them organizing here. Just coming through in terms of giving us a sense of how the negotiations have been going with the Goodyear company around the restructuring of this entity. And we hear today that a settlement has indeed been reached here. But we see NUMSA raising concerns around, for instance, that precedence that would start here, even going to a point of saying that there is a need now more than ever for government to zoom into the work of multinationals in terms of their operations here in the country and their obligations going into the future. But one thing that comes through this morning would be a settlement that has been reached here for the over 900 of those workers at the Kariega plant, and we hear that 707 of those would belong to NUMSA and others would be non-unionized members. Here, Ayanda, we're talking about people that have been with the company for almost 30 years, and we see the settlement going into various of the scenarios that will present themselves, touching also on the non-financial benefits like your medical aid and the likes, and we see NUMSA as well just touching on various of the developments around the country. I'm going to bring into the conversation with us this morning, Ayanda, the spokesperson from NUMSA. This would be Pagamile Hlubi Majola, who will just give us a sense, a wrap basically of what came out of this briefing. I see that at least there's a little bit of hope, in terms of also salvaging the plant, the space. For 2 months you've set yourself down to say, let's at least try and find a partner, a rope in government, and try to, that facility to be safeguarded going into the future. But we see that there's a settlement here. You've taken stock, taken issue with the fact that the employer was only starting at 50,000 rand for the workers. Welcome to the SABC, Pagamile.
Good day, and good day to your viewers. Thank you for having me on the show. Yes, indeed. The purpose of the press conference was just to update the public on the negotiations that NUMSA has embarked on since Goodyear made its announcement in June that it intended to stop local manufacturing at the Kariega plant in Kariega. Now, this is a plant that's been around for decades. We're talking, I think, since 1947, if I'm not mistaken. So if you listen to some of the workers there, some of them have been working, it's not just them who've been working at the plant, their parents worked at the plant, their grandparents worked at the plant. That plant is very embedded in the community, and it is one of the few sources of employment. And you must understand, we're not just talking about the impact on direct employment, but there's also an impact in terms of the value chain. There are companies that exist as a result of Goodyear that provide secondary services. So those companies would also be affected by the fact that as we speak right now, Goodyear is officially no longer trading, no longer manufacturing in Kariega.
Let's talk about the settlement. Let's go into it because more than anything else, what would be a concern for the workers and their families would be how they sustain themselves outside of being in the employ here. As we hear that this morning, the company did not allow any one of them into the facility.
Yes, so in terms of the settlement that we negotiated, initially Goodyear offered only 50,000. NUMSA has managed to double that in its negotiations. We've also managed to ensure that whatever educational obligations the company had in terms of bursaries, etc., those are maintained, certainly until the end of 2025, if I'm not mistaken. The other part of the settlement that we have agreed to, that we are working on, is even though we have negotiated a better better financial cushion in the form of a better retrenchment package, we have also looked at how do we resolve the burning issue of what happens to these workers after this plant is closed. We know that the Eastern Cape has the highest unemployment in the country, and plants like Goodyear, VW, and a few others are some of the main sources of employment. So when you have a Goodyear closing, that is going to have a severe socioeconomic impact on a province that already is struggling to create jobs. So one of the things that NUMSA has done is that we are currently in negotiations with the IDC to say that the IDC must assist us. We want to be involved in finding a strategic equity partner that's going to take over the operations of Goodyear and continue with the service of manufacturing tires in that area. NUMSA is going to, because of our involvement, what we see is some kind of ownership program where at the end of this process, workers must own a share of this company that we hope to set up through the IDC. And thankfully, the IDC has agreed to our proposal, and we're now at the point of looking for a strategic equity partner. The GS did mention the fact that there are currently talks with a particular company, but we're not at liberty to say who what that company is or who they are. But yes, a very clear plan is already underway to try and replace those jobs by restarting this plant, and a 2-month window has been set aside to achieve that.
And just before we let you go, you also mentioned the issue of tariffs. You spoke about where we find ourselves with the United States of America, and we see the GS even saying here that if we don't see government coming through here, we may as well in the near future see some of these industries gone.
Yes, we're saying that the South African government must take decisive measures to protect local jobs and to protect local industries. And the best way to do that is to impose tariffs in order to secure those industries. Now, we know that the government has done this before in the past. NUMSA was the one that led the charge in 2015-2016 when ArcelorMittal South Africa was in fact, the steel sector in general was in dire straits. We intervened, we spoke, we approached government on behalf of the sector and asked for intervention to protect the sector, and decisions were taken, policy changes were made. We are asking for the same for the tire sector, because we are seeing that the tire sector is experiencing dumping from other countries like Vietnam, countries like Cambodia, and this is undermining the local tire manufacturing in this country. You must understand that if Goodyear took a decision, like it has done, to close manufacturing, it concerns us that other companies will do the same. And this is why we're saying that government must start to look at protecting local industries and protecting local manufacturing by imposing tariffs.
Right. Pagamile Tlubi Majola, thank you very much for giving us your time. But you hear Pagamile just giving us a breakdown of what concerns them as a union here. Another thing that was notable here, Ayanda, was them saying that they've been bleeding numbers in terms of the members that would go through retrenchments and the likes, and they're saying going into the future, they're also going to be monitoring what Goodyear would be doing here, hopeful that it will keep to the end of the bargain in giving these workers what they deserve. Ayanda, back to you in studio for now.
All right, Kategolo Khodi, live to us there from Newtown in Johannesburg. Thanks very much indeed. Do